The day of the Tony Award nominations is like college acceptance day, a bit earlier in the spring, but on the scarcity model, of the dozens of artists eligible in each category, only 5 or so admitted. That means some great work gets left by the wayside, but also, because the number of nominators is small enough to be idiosyncratic, that plenty of outcomes defy all prediction. Here are our thoughts on this season's inadvertent, and possibly advertent, snubs, delightful, or mystifying, surprises and other notable anomalies. A melancholy morning for Vanya. Television stars are considered good box office but not always good Tony bait. This year's crop, including Sarah Paulson, Jeremy Strong, Steve Carell and William Jackson Harper, complicates that wisdom. Paulson is a likely winner, but the men are already canceling each other out. Though Carell, in his Broadway debut, and Harper both play characters competing for the love of a married woman in the Lincoln Center Theater revival of Uncle Vanya, only Harper, excellent in a role that is usually considered supporting, was nominated as Best Leading Actor in a Play. The production, which featured many lovely performances, was otherwise shut out. Note that Chekhov let neither man win. Deep cuts for Stereophonic. How the nominators handled the ensemble in David Ajmi's recording studio set play was going to be one of the morning's most interesting questions. The answer, generously, as 5 members of the young cast were singled out for their supporting performances, including Tom Pasinka and Sarah Pidgeon as the fraying central couple, and Juliana Canfield and Will Brill as their bandmates. Without an instrument in hand, Eli Gelb got in, too, as the 70s rock group's frazzled sound engineer. Spreading all that love helped take the show to #1 with A Bullet, the most nominated play in Broadway history. Too many riches to go around. On the other hand, the superb ensemble casts of Judge's African Hair Braiding and Illinois were skunked. That's no accident, as more works these days distribute the storytelling burden equally among many members of a cast. Odd nomination outcomes, feast or famine, can result. That's why we often argue here for a new category that honors ensembles. And Actors Equity, the national union representing actors and stage managers, goes further, with its annual award for Broadway choruses. Of the 23 musicals that opened this season, 21 are eligible. The winner will be notified on June 15, pointedly, one day before the Tonys. Women lead in directing. In the history of the awards, only 10 women, beginning in 1998, have won prizes for directing. This year that number seems likely to rise, with 7 of the 10 possible directing slots filled by women. Anne Kaufman, Lila Neubauer and Whitney White have been nominated for Best Direction of a Play, and Maria Friedman, Lee Silverman, Jessica Stone and Danya Taymor, the niece of Julie Taymor, the first woman to win for direction of a musical, are in contention for Best Direction of a Musical. To love, honor and ignore, the Tony nominating committee said, "I do," to 2 pairs of actors playing married characters, Brian Darcy James and Kelly O'Hara as lovers undone by alcoholism in Days of Wine and Roses, and Marianne Plunkett and Dorian Harewood as an older couple grappling with dementia in The Notebook. But the shows did not receive the same love. Neither was nominated for Best Musical, though Days of Wine and Roses did pick up a nomination for Score and The Notebook for Book. Guess you can't always have your wedding cake, and eat it too. A warm welcome to Cabaret. Rebecca Frecknall's crepuscular revival of Candor and Ebb's Cabaret was celebrated when it opened on the West End in 2021, eventually winning 7 Olivier Awards. But its Broadway transfer received a more muted response. Too often a misguided attempt to resuscitate the show breaks its ribs, the New York Times wrote. So who cares? Not the Tony nominators, who recognized the show with a nomination for Best Revival of a Musical and gave nods to the actors, Eddie Redmayne, Gail Rankin, Bebe Neuwirth and Steven Skybell, in all 4 categories. No Yellow Brick Road for The Wiz. The much-anticipated revival has been one of spring's early hits, but Tony nominators followed the lead of critics, not audiences, who didn't have much nice to say about the show's look, script and performances. The Wiz, which earned 7 Tony Awards when it arrived on Broadway in 1975, didn't get a single nod this time around. Editor's picks: how did Black Forest cake become the world's favorite dessert? A new fitness craze with big drama. Max Fierro likes to watch things grow. Including himself. Shayna Taub gets out the vote, mostly. Like Hamilton, the musical, Suffs, looks at American history through a contemporary lens. Like Hamilton, the show started at the Public Theater before moving to Broadway. And like Hamilton, it was written and composed by its multi-talented star, here 35-year-old Shayna Taub. When nominations were announced, though, Taub didn't pull off a Lin-Manuel trifecta. She received nods for her music and book, 2 of 6 nominations for Suffs, but not for starring as the suffragist Alice Paul. Nikki M. James, already a Tony winner for The Book of Mormon, got the show's 1 acting nomination, as Ida B. Wells. Pop rock storms another stage. Squint and you may think you're at the Grammy Awards on Tony's night, as the Best Score nominees include Arcade Fire's Will Butler, Stereophonic, David Byrne and Fatboy Slim, Here Lies Love, and Jamestown Revival, The Outsiders. Plus, of course, Sufjan Stevens, whose 2005 concept album is transcendently reorchestrated for dance in the Best Musical nominee, Illinois, and Alicia Keys, whose existing tunes power the most nominated musical of all, Hell's Kitchen. Except when it doesn't. Among those who might instead be watching from home, the not-nominated Barry Manilow, Harmony, Ingrid Michaelson, The Notebook, and Huey Lewis, whose songbook energizes the heart of rock and roll, but didn't rouse Tony nominators. Waving the flag for Illinois, and more. Monday's roster reflected a Broadway season that was notably American. Even aside from Illinois, a show actually named for a state. Hell's Kitchen, nodding at the New York City neighborhood where Keys grew up, told a story we like to think of as local. Big dreams come true. Suffs took us behind the scenes of American history as women fought for the vote. Purely victorious and appropriate took contrasting approaches, one comic, one gothic, to the peculiar American institution of racism. But even aside from their content, the 17 productions nominated for the biggest prizes are overwhelmingly the work of American authors. One of the touted London imports, Peter Morgan's Patriots, didn't even make the best playlist. Is Broadway, which has too often resembled a British colony, finally achieving independence? Jesse Green is the chief theater critic for The Times. He writes reviews of Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, regional and sometimes international productions. More about Jesse Green. Alexis Solowski has written for The Times since 2006. As a culture reporter, she covers television, theater, movies, podcasts and new media. More about Alexis Solowski. Tony nominations 2024 live updates. Hell's Kitchen and Stereophonic dominate. Here's what to know about the nominations. So many shows only just opened. How did the nominations happen so quickly? Jessica Lange, nominated for Mother Play, wanted to create a new role. Leslie Odom Jr. on his Tony nomination for Purely Victorious. Jeremy Strong on his nomination in a role in Enemy that felt undeniable.